Story 1. We may encounter harmful industrial byproducts in our food, water, and air, but at least it won't be blue. Story 2. What is the enforcement and oversight mechanism, especially when government departments responsible for these functions have been reduced to the point where the Food and Drug Administration is not conducting milk quality testing due to staff shortages? I also agree that pharmaceutical prescriptions should not have television advertisements, but if we withdraw resources from the enforcement of these policies, how can we implement them effectively? Story 3. On a side note, I wonder how snacks like hot Cheetos and Doritos will be modified, if at all. Story 4. Sure, ban those. What? Oh, they're going to allow manufacturers to release more pollution than they have in years into the environment? So we don't have to consume random chemicals. We get to breathe them instead. Story 5. It's whatever. What annoys me is the friends who dislike the government are now suddenly excited about more government regulations. Story 6. It really shouldn't affect flavor. I doubt that some of these are as dangerous as people think. Some of these food colorings are questionable. Unfortunately, there are food safety standards that are being removed, which will make United States food less safe. The Department of Health and Human Services has eliminated 20,000 jobs. More than 7,000 other jobs have been eliminated from the public health sector in other departments. The other significant news from the Food and Drug Administration is that they are suspending the testing of milk. However, everyone is talking about the food dyes. Story 7. General Mills tried switching the dyes used in Trix cereal to naturally occurring colors like beet juice and blueberry juice. Consumers preferred the synthetic dyes and artificial flavors to the natural colors and flavors. They still make both versions, though. Story 8. Remember when Democrats tried to ban large-size soft drinks, and the Republican Party showed up with big drinks in hand, criticizing all those chemicals and artificial dyes, claiming it was American? Now, Trump has weakened the Clean Water Act and relaxed regulations on what companies can discharge into the environment. More chemicals for everyone. They do not care about our health and never did. Story 9. I'm more concerned about the reasons behind this. Are there real scientific studies that suggest they are harmful? Or is this driven by pseudoscientific claims from unreliable sources? Story 10. According to United Nations data, the United States currently ranks third in the world in food safety. Many discussions regarding food dye are fear-mongering, and the restrictions in the European Union are not actual bans. The European Union simply uses different terminology for what are essentially the same substances. Story 11. But why? I have yet to see a scientific consensus that food dyes are a problem. Europe uses the same substances under different names. This does not inherently make it okay. But why focus on this? Story 12. All I want is well-researched, peer-reviewed, science-based policy. Instead, I see adults acting like spoiled toddlers on a conspiracy forum. However, that concern is overshadowed by the imminent threat of an authoritarian state. As a result, I am unhappy and hardly register this news. Story 13. Confused because they cut funding for cancer research and the Food and Drug Administration. They are okay with you drinking contaminated water, but certain dyes are prohibited. Story 14. There is no solid scientific basis for doing so. There is no evidence of it being harmful, and they are all approved for use in the European Union as well. Story 15. If it were banned under the previous administration, it would be labeled as woke, and people would be injecting those dyes into their veins in protest. Story 16. I would prefer to have sufficient milk inspectors to protect us from listeria and other diseases rather than banning food dyes that may be linked to certain disorders. Story 17. It's a distraction from the fact that they are ending routine Food and Drug Administration food inspections and milk testing. Story 18. Giant disappointment. These dyes have weak research on negative consequences. So this is just a win for the vocal group of health-conscious mothers to say, yay, they care about us. Story 19. I remember hearing a rumor that Yellow 5 made you smaller. I swore off Mountain Dew for years, only to find out that I wasn't smaller. I was just in 3rd grade. Story 20. We have ceased testing for lead and food contamination but have time to focus on banning food dyes. This serves as a distraction from the real issues imposed on the Food and Drug Administration by this administration, which could lead to serious consequences for public health in a matter of months. Story 21. If we continue with the practices observed in Europe, there will soon be universal parental leave, healthcare, and accountable governments. Story 22. Fine and probably good, but this is happening as the United States Food and Drug Administration suspends milk quality tests, which is madness. Story 23. The Supreme Court just stated that we can have more contaminants in our drinking water, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. appointed a discredited, abusive doctor who administered non-consensual puberty blockers to autistic children to demonstrate that vaccines cause autism. I am not optimistic about this administration's deeply held, scientifically backed beliefs regarding the dangers of food dye. Story 24. It is an unwise move to seek the approval of those lacking critical thinking. Are food colorings necessary? Now, do they cause cancer, autism, or ADHD? It does not appear so. Many people online believe that Red 40 is the source of various problems. Story 25. I don't really care either way. The studies into the harmful effects of food dyes such as Red 40 are largely inconclusive, especially in the quantities typically consumed. It's fine that they are banning it, but there are much larger priorities that are not being addressed. Story 26. It is unwise to ban items that do not have statistically significant harm. It is also a waste of time to focus on this specific issue when there are far more significant harms, some of which are being introduced or reintroduced by the same legislators advocating for the food coloring legislation. Story 27. It will increase costs for nearly everything. Companies will transition to natural dyes, claiming they are more expensive, regardless of actual costs. Capitalism always finds loopholes. Story 28. I learned that you might be consuming more bugs than you realize. If you follow kosher practices, are vegetarian, or have allergies, artificial dyes may be more suitable for you because some dyes are derived from insects. For example, there is a red dye that companies in other countries extract from a type of beetle, which involves crushing a significant number of bugs to obtain it. Is this method better than dyes derived from petroleum? I'm honestly not sure. Story 29. If they are causing issues, ban them. However, having no nutritional value is not enough of a reason. If that's the case, then we should ban iceberg lettuce. It has no nutritional value but offers a benefit as a source of fiber. Story 30. It is completely useless. The only individuals who believe that food dyes are the worst part of what is in food in America are a few steps removed from outright anti-vaccine advocates. They are simply individuals who were misled for so long that they began to believe it. Story 31. I truly could not care any less than I do now. I wish we could focus on more important issues. They are just going to rebrand the issue like they do in the United Kingdom, and people will stop talking about it. I would love if people cared about starving children and the homeless as much as they cared about the color red. Story 32. When California banned food colorings, Fox News mocked the law. Now, they seem to support this type of measure. Story 33. It is a complete waste of time. The United States already bans more food dyes than most other regions of the world, including the European Union, which some people believe is superior for various reasons. We do not have a health crisis linked to food dyes. Our primary health epidemic is related to the fact that we consume too many calories and do not manage them effectively. Banning Yellow 6 will not make food safer or healthier, and people will continue to gain weight steadily, as they have for decades. Story 34. I believe it's a distraction to hide the underlying issues. The necessary work should have been completed, but it wasn't a priority for them. Story 35. This administration has been so corrupt and inept that I am questioning it. Yes, it sounds smart, but nothing else has been. Story 36. They did not ban it. They are not banning it. They are suggesting the removal but are not forcing any company to comply. Story 37. I don't care about food dye. I care about them firing food safety workers, rolling back environmental protections, and pausing milk safety inspections. We'll get dysentery from milk and industrial waste in our drinking water, but at least the candies will be a different shade of red. Story 38. The Food and Drug Administration is no longer conducting food inspections. Brainworm Bobby can talk about whatever he wants, but without inspections, it won't have any effect. The Food and Drug Administration is preparing plans that would end most of its routine food safety inspection work, according to multiple federal health officials, and effectively outsource this oversight to state and local authorities. Story 39. It is unwise to focus on dyes when there are many other more dangerous things affecting people. As long as the information is disclosed on the packaging, consumers can make informed choices, so there is no reason to ban it. There are much more serious concerns that deserve attention. This is merely a diversion from more pressing issues and serves as a public relations strategy. Story 40. Haven't other countries banned these long ago? It's about time, I say. I was severely allergic to these while growing up. Story 41. They criticized Michelle Obama for trying to provide healthy meals for their children at school, labeling it a nanny state and resorting to insults. The same individuals now praise this initiative. Remember, these individuals are also undermining the Food and Drug Administration, hindering its ability to conduct necessary inspections as it once could. It is all deceptive. Story 42. It's not about the dyes. It's about politicized courts now having the power to supersede Food and Drug Administration rulings and decide what is and isn't healthy based on subjective perceptions. I don't see this aspect being discussed nearly enough. Story 43. Sounds good to me. I don't see it being a net negative, at least. Hopefully, it will help my daughter grow up a bit healthier. Story 44. To prevent misinformation, there is currently no ban in place. Companies are expected to phase out dyes in the near future, but there is no mandate requiring their elimination. Story 45. It is completely acceptable. Food should be naturally colored. Additionally, many people are experiencing reactions to these unnecessary food dyes. Story 46. People here are uninformed. These were banned during the Biden administration. The decision was made then. We are now putting policy into practice. The process was similar to the banning of cigarette advertisements and changing the legal smoking age. It took decades for people to stop listening to industry lobbyists and start believing the medical research. Sure, it is finally happening now, and that is great, but this wasn't a novel idea from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or Donald Trump. As another example, food products containing trans fats, such as margarine and many bread-based products, were banned many years ago, but the Food and Drug Administration allowed a grace period of 2 to 3 years for companies to stop producing them. They are officially gone from the United States now, which is why you don't see margarine anymore, but rather a percentage vegetable oil spread. They obviously allow companies time to start researching new ingredients, recipes, and manufacturing processes to create products that fit the new regulations. Otherwise, we would have a sudden loss of millions of tons of food. Story 47. I'm allergic to them, so I would be thrilled. I know many companies have moved away from them, but I'm still wary of most dyed foods. The 3 main allergens I have will open up some snacks I haven't had in decades. Story 48. Rip Red 40, you will be missed. I am currently stocking up on as much as I can before it is gone forever. Story 49. It is amazing how when Democrats wanted to implement regulations, conservatives opposed big government. However, now that it is former President Trump, they are all in favor. Story 50. It is a waste of time, as they are completely harmless in amounts anyone would ever ingest. Additionally, anyone who claims they are banned in Europe is incorrect. They simply have different names there. Story 51. I am a progressive and I think it is a non-issue. We have much bigger concerns. There are plenty of other harmful things we consume, but as long as there are alternative ways to color our food, that is fine. Story 52. It's a good step forward. However, with all the enforcement aspects of the Food and Drug Administration being weakened, who is going to enforce it? They have effectively done nothing at all. Story 53. I will be the voice of dissent. I do not like it. I like choices. I want the freedom to choose. If you do not want to eat it, do not. If you do want to eat it, go ahead. I do not care if it would cure cancer and improve everyone's health. Everything is problematic. Moderation is key. Drinking excessive amounts of water is harmful. Inhaling too much air is harmful. When will the micromanaging end? Story 54. Honestly, I think this is the only good thing that might happen from this administration, and I really hate even giving them that credit. Story 55. Love it. Let's add some natural dyes if they want to dye items. Hot Cheetos will have so much carmine color that it will boost our protein intake. Story 56. About time. Europe is ahead of us on this. Stop using low-quality ingredients. American corporations prioritize profit over consumer well-being. Story 57. It's almost like he stepped on a landmine with his comments about autism and needed an easy win. As many have pointed out, which party fought tooth and nail against this type of policy in the past? Which party? Story 58. It is strange having Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in this administration. Besides the vaccine-related issues, all these health concerns seem to be the opposite of what Donald Trump would prioritize. Story 59. Other countries have already banned certain food dyes but still have the same products. This raises the question of why it has been allowed here. Even though it is a good start, unless companies are held accountable for what they include in their products, they will simply find something else that is cheaper to use instead of what is best for their customers. Story 60. Who cares? They don't care if we're poisoned. This is just the broken clock of Robert F. Kennedy being right for once. Story 61. This is a petroleum-based product. It is not meant for human consumption. I do not understand why people have a hard time recognizing that there are some long-term health risks associated with putting this inside their bodies. Story 62. Honestly, it could be the one good thing this administration does. I would go further and ban all unnecessary additives in food and drinks, following what Europe has done. Comparing the ingredients list between the same product in the United States and Europe shows how much junk we add to our food. European countries do not have an obesity epidemic like we do here. However, it would be nice to maintain safety and health standards for food. I do not enjoy finding bits of fingers in my food. Story 63. Thank goodness. Absolutely abhorrent chemicals that do not enhance the taste or quality of the food have been banned in the rest of the developed world for a long time. Story 64. Finally, some good news. Food dyes definitely have an effect on my child. Europe has warnings on these foods for a reason. Story 65. This is a good thing, as those dyes have been proven to have negative effects on your body. Keep in mind that these dyes are already banned in countries with stricter food regulations. Story 66. Sounds great. We don't need unnatural substances in our food. Could be harmful. Whose idea was it to implement this ban? Story 67. I have no issue with it, but why ignore high fructose corn syrup? I believe we are the only country in the world that allows it. Story 68. I have never understood why there is dye in food, especially in pet food. I read labels and avoid purchasing it. I recommend checking the ingredients because you would be surprised at what some ingredients in our food do to laboratory animals. Story 69. My first thought is that if Michelle Obama suggested it, the opposition would be highly critical and would rush to buy it like they did with light bulbs. The same applies to healthier lunches. Hypocrisy comes first. Aside from that, it is beneficial to lower cancer risk. Story 70. I believe these questions, which all follow this format, are specifically designed to have their contents fed into artificial intelligence language models. Story 71. I remember around 1971 the banning of red dye number 2. Why did it take more than 50 years to notice that these other dyes are also harmful? Story 72. I believe that if it had happened during the Biden or Obama administration, Reddit would be supportive. I have seen users on Reddit complain for a long time about harmful food additives that have already been banned in most European countries. However, since it is happening during Trump's term, they either do not want to acknowledge it or claim that it is not sufficient. Story 73. We don't need them, but there is no convincing argument to ban them. Every country that has banned them generally replaces them with items that are banned elsewhere, including the United States. Story 74. My mom's favorite phrase is, putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Fine, ban the dyes. They're banned in other countries, so it's not like food manufacturers don't know how to change their recipes. But there are many other things in food that are more harmful. Story 75. I am indifferent about the dyes but more concerned about the reduction in food safety measures for milk and meat resulting from the reduction of employees at the Food and Drug Administration. Story 76. If there is any evidence that it is dangerous, then it should be banned. They are food dyes. Who cares if the color of something changes? The flavor should remain the same. Story 77. It is unwise and the result of overturning the Chevron doctrine. The amount of these dyes required to cause harm is significant. The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe has a valuable perspective on this, and it is worth a listen. The issue is that these substances are not truly dangerous in the quantities present. In fact, drinking water in similar amounts can be toxic. Should water be banned? This highlights the problem of transferring authority from knowledgeable individuals to the courts. This situation is a test of limits. From browsing through the discussion, I see a ratio of at best 10-1 in favor of this viewpoint, without awareness of the consequences. Once the precedent is established, the same principle can be used to reverse environmental regulations. Therefore, my concern lies not in the dyes themselves being banned but in the precedent it sets. Story 78. We should make policy decisions based on science. If there is high-quality science showing these dyes to be harmful in the amounts used in food, then they should be banned. Story 79. I'm so allergic to Red 40 that it's not even funny, but I have to give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. props for at least one health-related initiative. This would honestly be such a game changer for me. I can't take many over-the-counter medicines or eat food that people have prepared for communal events because it contains random things. Many skin products also have it, and it just continues. Now, if that also applies to alcohol products, honest props. Story 80. Is there evidence that indicates they are harmful and should be banned, which has undergone peer review? Ban it. It's as simple as that. Science should dictate policy. Whether it does or does not, I am not qualified to have an opinion on the matter. A significant issue in these discussions is that many believe their opinions are valid. They are not. Unless you hold a degree in a relevant field, that is the minimum requirement. This is the starting point, not a definitive stance suggesting, I have a degree, so I am correct, end of conversation. It's the minimum necessary to participate in the conversation. If you do not have that, you do not have an opinion. You have unfounded assertions based on irrelevant data. You cannot claim to understand the topic. Story 81. My thoughts on this are that it serves as a distraction. We can change regulations on food, which is positive. However, without the Food and Drug Administration checking food or milk, it remains a nice idea that is currently unenforceable. Story 82. It is about 10,000 on my list of health concerns. While I support it, problems such as the reemergence of rare diseases, the lack of universal health care, the criminalization of miscarriage, and infrastructure that encourages unhealthy lifestyles are far more worrying to me. Story 83. Get rid of the food dyes. I'm fine with it. Using private medical records to track individuals with autism is concerning. Story 84. It's unfortunate that people are politicizing this issue. It's harmful, and it was introduced into food by irresponsible individuals. Regardless of your opinion about those who initiated the ban, it will ultimately benefit everyone who consumes that unhealthy food. Additionally, you can still make food colorful without using petrochemical byproducts. Story 85. Just a distraction. There are more serious issues that the Food and Drug Administration could address, but they believe they can appease some of us by giving us this insignificant gesture. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.